Welcome to the first edition of Details Matter. I have a very special guest today, somebody that represents and embodies exactly what this podcast should be about. Dove, Dr. Dove.
Hi,
Was I supposed to give you a better introduction?
Yeah, no, I loved it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I'm so honored to be the first guest.
Thank you. So for those of you that don't know, which you should already know because I've posted her a million times on my Instagram, she is a doctor, obviously, a dentist. She is an IFBB pro naturally. She's here today to tell us about the steroids she took to turn pro naturally, right?
All the steroids.
I'm joking.
I ask for steroids all the time.
Nobody believes that you're natural.
He won't give them to me.
Nobody believes that you're natural. And more importantly, she is a mother of 5. So when I introduce her to people, I always say she's a dentist. And then, sometimes people are like, oh, wow.
He's my PR.
Exactly, PR agent. And then and then I'll say, if I don't get the reaction I want, I say, and she's a pro, natural pro. And then I'll get a bit more of a reaction. And then I know I leave the best for last. And I say, she's a mother of 5.
And then I throw in with a set of triplets. And then it's like,
what? Then everybody wants to know. So you have triplets. How old are your kids? All 5 of them?
So my eldest is 13, just turned 13. And then I've got 11. And the triplets are 9 times 3, just turned 9. So 9.
Yeah, so they're still quite young, everyone.
Yeah. I had 5 kids under 5 when I was 31.
5 kids under 5 when you were 31, and you were a dentist, doctor.
And I was a dentist, yep. I owned 3 practices at the time.
Okay, so tell me a bit about that. What do? You build dental practices?
So I...
Do you practice as a dentist?
I do practice a little bit, not as much as I used to. So what happened was basically, I went to dental school, I graduated, started associating for someone, and decided I wanted to own, tried to buy into that practice, didn't work out. It was kind of a messy situation I won't get into on here, but saw that as an opportunity to open my own place and went with it. We opened a clinic. I opened up with a partner and worked there, and that started going really well. And so we opened up another one, put associates in the first one, and then I went and worked at the second location, and then we realized, wait, the first one's still doing really well. We don't actually need to be there to set up a practice, so we set up a third practice kind of as a trial, and we actually never worked there. We just set it right up with associates, and it worked out, and then we sold those 3 and realized, this is something we're really good at. So
I want to take it back a little bit. Did you always want to be a dentist your whole life?
No.
That's not something or did you always want to be a pro bodybuilder
your
whole life? Well, like when you were young, when you were in high school or even before high school, what did you want to be?
I always wanted to be a vet. I love animals. That's what I thought I was going to do, a vet or a doctor. But I think I just, when you're in school, these programs are so hard to get into. You apply for everything because you don't know where you're going to. So I did my undergrad at York, and then in my 3rd year, I thought, okay, I'm going to either write the MCAT, which is the entry exam for vet school and medicine, or I'm going to write the DAT, which is what you need to write to get into dental school. So I started with the DAT, and I had a very good GPA. I was, a really good student, and I gave it everything I had, and I got into dental school in my 3rd year. So I didn't actually finish my undergrad, and I just thought, it was so competitive.
So what you're saying is you're a university dropout.
Basically. I need one credit to get my BSc, an intro to computer use, which I'll probably fail, so I probably shouldn't do it.
So guys, you still do have a future, even if you drop out of school, is what she's saying. You can still be a doctor.
No, but I got a degree. I got a dental degree. So I went to U of T. I went to University of Toronto for dental school, and I became a GP. But so since then we started opening practices, and my husband does it with me. And then when I got pregnant with the triplets, I took a year off because it was far too difficult physically to practice. And then it was just kind of hard to go back. So now I do practice, but I mostly do the business side of dentistry.
So one thing that, I find exceptional about you and unique about you is that obviously wherever you put your energy, you become successful at it. It's not something where you try to be successful. You obviously have done it over and over in different areas of your life. from becoming a professional, becoming a doctor, a dentist, opening practices. Like that's a whole other industry in itself. They're not even the same thing. Just because you have a skill doesn't mean you can do the business of it. Which
dentists are actually terrible at business.
And you've managed to do both.
Yeah.
You managed to turn pro in bodybuilding in less than a year of doing it. So we're going to talk about that. So some of you that are competitors really take that in and understand that. Having 5 kids obviously is nothing easy. It's obviously very difficult, and I know that because everyone that talks about it, everyone
so many kids.
Everyone uses that as an excuse. That's why I bring that up. People say I couldn't do it because I have kids.
True.
I couldn't do this because I have 1 kid, but you're doing it with 5 kids. So obviously, success leaves clues, and you're successful in different areas of your life. So there's something to learn from. There's many things to learn from you, and that's why I wanted you as the first guest on this, because you obviously have a mindset like no other, and you've proven that historically, but also working together. I've seen that myself, right? And I've got to witness that myself. And it's the little details that make you who you are, and that make you exceptional in anything that you do. So that's the main reason I wanted you on here, because I think you have a lot of wisdom to share with people. And it's not just even, things that you and I have spoken about. I hear when you give people advice, you give such encouraging, but impactful advice to people. And it's a testament to obviously your mindset and how you think and how you approach life. And you have this attitude toward life that you care so much about, about certain things, and then other things you're passive about and you don't let them bother you. And I think that's, for many people, such a huge constraint, is they're so affected by things, but they don't put that much effort into the things that will make them progress and move forward in life. So you told me a story one time, and I want to bring this up. I don't know if you remember it, but you said that your dad told you, you said you want to be a dentist one day, I think.
No. So the story was...
so I don't have a great memory, so...
Let me tell the story. So my dad went to the dentist. I was probably in my second year of undergrad, didn't know what I was going to do, going back and forth. And he comes home, and he had his teeth cleaned, and he had a check done by the dentist. And he comes home and he says, "You know something? You should be a hygienist." And I said, "Well, what'd you get done?" He said, "Oh, I had a cleaning, and then I saw the dentist." And no offense to hygienists, I think it's a very respectable job. I think they do very well. But I said, why can't I be the dentist? Why can't I be, the person who owns the office and the doctor and the one that went to medicals? Why are you, I haven't even gotten into my professional career, and you've already decided that I should go to college and be a hygienist and not, pursue the highest education possible. So I think at that moment I was like, things happen in my life and they just kind of, they stick with me, and I use them to drive. And I love my dad. He's the best and my favorite person on earth. But I think that really encouraged me to show him that I can, go as far as possible.
Yeah, and the reason that story stuck with me when you told me, to be honest, because I think there are pivotal points in our lives that, and it doesn't mean people are bad. I don't look at it as, my mom told me when I was opening the gym, she's like, "Are you sure you want to open a gym? What if you fail?" And often they say these things to protect us. Right?
Well, they're scared, and that's what I think.
Yeah,
it's
they don't want you to fail.
Do the safe thing. It's safe to work for someone. You don't have to run your business. You're the dentist. You have to run the business,
and you'll have a good life.
They make great money.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So I have that same experience, and these things stick with us. But I think one thing that people fail to do, to be quite honest, in my experience working with people, is they fail to use these things as positive motivators, right? And when you are successful in anything, you have to have different stories you tell yourself, or different stories that remind you. They're reminders of this is why I need to keep going. This is why I'm doing it. Because that motivation is always changing as well, right? The motivation for you to turn pro is very different, has to be a different motivator than when you are a pro.
Right.
It's not the same story that keeps you going your whole life.
Right.
Because if you use that same story, you're gonna run out of energy.
Right.
You're gonna run out of fuel.
Right.
Right. So I think that's why that was one thing that really stuck with me. So obviously you have a different name, Dove.
Yeah.
Right? So you're an immigrant?
Yes.
Right. So my family's immigrant.
Yes.
My mom's an immigrant, and obviously she raised me. I remember personally when I was growing up, my name, when they would call me in class, I would like, is the teacher going to say my name right?
Yes,
Is the
yes.
teacher going to say my name wrong? And I would always get nervous.
Yes.
Did you have that same experience?
Yes. So actually, I compete under Dove. That's what everybody calls me, but my full name is Dovlat, and it's got a rat at the end of it. So growing up, I had kids tease me all the time, and I was bullied for that, amongst other things. Coming from an immigrant family, I wasn't the kid that went to competitive dance and wore Roots and Gap and all those things. My parents shopped at Byway. We didn't have a lot growing up, and so I grew up having to basically. I was telling you this earlier, just constantly being knocked down by peers and in school and having to show up the next day. And I think that's a huge lesson.
So you think that contributes to who you become later in life? Like,
absolutely.
Like even just something as simple as your name. Because I know that for me, it created so much anxiety in my life, to be honest. It's like the weirdest thing, but if I can remember one thing from my childhood, it's like they would always say my name wrong. They would call me Amer. They would call me all these different things. Like I literally told a story the other day. The reason why my business is called Hammer Fitness is because I called myself Amer the Hammer so people wouldn't say my name wrong.
Yeah.
Like Hammer had nothing to do with anything. I just didn't
Which is
want
funny because it's funny that you called yourself Amer the Hammer. It's almost like you're making fun of your own name. You know what I mean?
I am, but please don't say it wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So I know, like for me, it stung for whatever
Of course,
reason.
and I think everybody gets bullied. I see it with my kids sometimes now too, and it's so so hard as a parent. But and oftentimes when one of my kids comes home and is getting picked on at school, I always tell them, be grateful that you're going through this because it's going to make you so much stronger. And I think that was a big thing for me, was just knowing that no matter how much I didn't want to go to school that day, how much I didn't want to face certain people, I still had to show up and I still had to do my best. And it really just teaches you that grit and the resilience that, you just have to keep going no matter what. And the world is not always super nice, and situations aren't always easy and comfortable, but you have to embrace it and just...
And a big reason I ask you that too, like even just about your name, is because obviously you have a very different and a unique mindset. And your dad told you to become a hygienist. But one thing you always say to me, like you speak very highly of your dad all the time. Like that he's been one of the biggest influences of your life positively. And that he's so hardworking and all these sorts of things that you said about, right? And so how do you think that affected you and like where you are today? Because like, honestly, becoming a doctor, turning pro in itself, because that's the industry I know. I don't know much about becoming a doctor or a dentist or anything like that, right? But I know this in itself is very difficult. It's very rare that you will ever see someone turn pro in less than 2 years, especially in your category. And I'm gonna make mention, you also turned pro naturally. You turn pro in open as a master's, so like that's under a certain age, right? You compete with people your age, but you also beat the people that were in the younger category to turn pro, and you arguably almost did it within like a month of competing.
Right.
Like the first year you competed, she won how many times? 7 times.
Yeah, like a King Kong, like 7 medals.
We're gonna call you Phil Heath now. 7-time Mr. Olympia. So you won 7 times. Within the span of, I think, 2 months or something like a month, right?
Yeah.
You're probably going to correct me because you
I don't
want me
remember.
to be precise.
I think so, yeah.
3
and then we came
weeks.
back like 8 months later.
Yeah.
And won the pro card.
So that is obviously a testament to, I'm saying in my industry, the industry I know, that is extremely rare and difficult. It's extremely rare to turn pro, never mind to do it in that short period of time. So like, what do you think you learned from your dad having that mindset and having that, or why is he, that impact he's had on your life? What is that impact that obviously made you who you are today and this person that's able to achieve anything that they want?
Yeah, I think like your parents are so, you look up to your parents, you watch them, they teach you everything, right? Just the way they are. And my parents being immigrants coming to this country without very much, I saw my dad kind of chase the American dream. He wanted to come and start a business, and he worked his ass off. Like I saw him work 2-3 jobs at a time, come home, and that's the one thing about him too, is no matter how stressed he was and how much he had going on, he always was there for us, and he always showed up as a good father, even though he had all these things going on. So I saw my dad being able to juggle various stresses in life. You know, he didn't have 5 kids. I come from a family with 3 kids, but you know, he worked hard, and nothing came easy. Like, it was just an example of just hard work. It's not easy to be successful, and anything worth mastering is going to be extremely difficult. And that's what I saw my dad go through, and that's where I learned that from. You know, I always work hard. Like, I don't know how to, in anything I do, you know, with competing and with training and my diet, I don't know how to half-ass things. If I'm doing something, I'm going to give it 150%. You know, the other day you were training someone here and they mentioned about not having to track something because it's healthy. And I'm like, I weigh my ketchup.
You ripped into them. No,
I was like, no, but you know, I never understand that. Yeah, I care. And even you've told me before, you know, in check-ins and like, relax, like, it's okay. This, like, sometimes I freaked out because especially when I first started and I didn't know, you know, I'd mess something up and you'd say, it's okay. Like, you're in your off season. This isn't going to affect you now. Obviously, if it's in prep, you would have destroyed me. But in prep, I'm even more meticulous. But it's almost insulting to me when somebody says relax, because I'm like, no, like, I'm doing something and I'm going to do it as best as I can. And, you know, I have no choice but to be successful here. So I can't not work as hard as I can.
And there's different personalities, to be fair, right? Like, I wouldn't coach everyone that way. I think that you naturally, for lack of a better word, like, you beat yourself up already, meaning like you're hard on yourself, right?
Yeah.
You don't need somebody to be harder on you, because I think the pressure, from my observation, the pressure you put on yourself and the expectation you have of yourself already is excellence, regardless. So
yeah.
I don't need to say to you, like, you need to be better. You already know you need to be better. So
yeah.
it's not productive to be that way towards someone like you, truthfully. And from my observation, a lot of it comes down to you're mindful of everything that you do. Okay, like, and how I'll break this down is like, even how you speak about your kids, like, you're mindful of the things you do and the things you say, because you want to make sure that, you know, you're not just speaking and doing things in front of them, and, you know, that may affect them negatively. Right. But you also have that same mindset toward the way you do cardio. You know, like, the way you do cardio, I'll tell you, do 20 minutes of cardio, and the problem with you doing 20 minutes of cardio, it's like some people doing an hour and a half of cardio.
Yeah.
So, like,
also never do 20. I always do a little bit extra.
Yeah, and the way you do it, like, it looks like you're running, you know, as hard as you can.
But you know what the interesting thing is? I'm actually not, and I talk to a lot of competitors and your athletes about cardio, and I'm sometimes, like, I'll see the girls here and they're going so fast, like the stairmill mill is going so fast, and you know, but they're holding on. They're just not putting any weight on. So I think I'm intentional. That's the word, and you use that word a lot, but I'm intentional in everything I do, and I don't, you know, sometimes with training, and I think this is how I used to do things, is I used to shut my brain off, you know, and I used to use this as a coping mechanism, and I still do, you know, stressed out, like lots going on, and this was where I can kind of shut down and just, like, yeah, shut everything out. But I think now I've become, and I think this is something that bodybuilding has taught me, is to become more intentional and more aware of what I'm doing, really feeling my body, feeling my muscles, you know, and it's almost like meditative cardio in a sense. And as it turns out, it's more enjoyable doing it that way, and it's more effective doing it that way.
Well, if you find it boring, not you, but like people that find it boring, if you find training boring, you're probably not doing it right.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're not thinking about all the things you need to think about in order to make the exercise and the workout effective.
Right. It's mindless, you know.
Yes. And you cannot progress that way. So it's not about giving someone a program, you know. Programs are arbitrary. Do 4 sets of this, 4 sets of that. But, like, how the person does it is literally the reason why they look the way they do.
Right.
You know, I could give somebody the program I give you, and they'll say that was the easiest program I've ever done. Yeah. And you can make it, you know, the most challenging thing you've ever done with even doing half of it if you wanted to.
Right. And that's why, you know, that's why I love leg days, because I have such a good connection and I can really feel that muscle. And that's why, you know, something like back, I always tell you, like, it almost stresses me out Whereas, I hear some girls saying, oh, I trained upper body today and it was easy. Well, that pisses me off. Like if I have an easy workout,
Yeah, it's
I'm
an insult to
angry.
yourself.
Well, I'm pissed. Like I don't feel good. I feel like it was wrong.
But you don't think that's insulting to yourself? Like you're the
If it
one
was
that
easy.
dictates the effort.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Like it should be hard.
Exactly.
Anytime you do it.
Yeah, exactly. So
Would you say that you were always athletic? Like you were
yeah, I
always
was
fit?
always athletic. I did taekwondo growing up. I competed at a national level.
I'm a black belt too.
I'm a black belt.
So we're gonna fight after.
That's part 2.
Yeah.
So I did taekwondo. What else did I do? That's about it. I mean, I signed up for a weightlifting class in grade 10. It was like an elective with my friend because we wanted to look at the grade 11 boys. That's the only reason. I swear to God, we did nothing the whole year.
Well, what do you think guys weightlift for? It's to get girls. So
right.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah. We were invisible though.
Yeah.
Biggest nerds at the school.
Were you? Were you a nerd in high school?
Huge nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge. The biggest.
So when did you start to really get into like physique, like building your physique? Like, did you go through phase of running? Like, what were your fitness goals like throughout the course of the last, like, let's say 15 years of your life, 20 years of your life? Like,
well,
what were
listen,
you trying to do?
I think everybody does, we want our body to look a certain way. You want to look good. You want to be fit. And I think as moms, when we have kids and kind of your body changes and then trying to come back to what you were before, and everybody kind of tries different things. So I went through a phase where I was vegan for a year and I lost a whole bunch of weight and I was running. I was never a good runner, but I tried running. I did like 5K at a time, but I did it with intention. So I lost a lot of weight, very lean, not a lot of muscle. So I did that for a while. And then I got pregnant with the triplets, and it took a huge toll on my body. I gained 100 pounds in the pregnancy. And
you tell us you were like in a wheelchair. Pretty much.
I was in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I know you said I can never post about it because
I will.
Okay, you talk about it.
I will post.
Okay.
I have some good pictures, but I'll tell a funny story about the wheelchair. So this is a side story. So my husband and I have been dating since we were 17. And I was quite young when I got pregnant with the triplets. And towards the end of the pregnancy, I carried them to 36 weeks, which is actually incredible for higher order multiples. Towards about like 34 weeks, I couldn't walk anymore because the weight on my stomach was so much and my lower back was killing me. So I said to my husband, Jason, I said, can you go rent me a wheelchair? And like he thinks of me as the 17-year-old that he met in high school. So he's like, you don't need a wheelchair. This is ridiculous. I said, just go. Like, I can't walk. I won't be able to go to my prenatal appointment. So he went to the place, and because in his head, he decided I will never use this wheelchair, he refused to get the one that was like $125 a month that had brakes. He got me like a really cheap $25 a month transport chair rental. So he's taking me to my prenatal appointment, and he pulls the wheelchair out of the back of the car, and I sit in it, and we're at Mount Sinai, and we're parked on University Street in the middle of a snowstorm. It's like February. And he goes to get my bag for the front of the car, and I'm like huge pregnant sitting in this wheelchair, and the wheelchair just starts to take off into university. And I'm screaming, pregnant with trip, like massive, like 3 chins, just huge.
I saw the picture.
You saw the picture. Horrifying. And stay tuned. Follow me on Instagram. We'll get posted. Anyways, he caught it. So here I am alive doing this podcast. But anyways, that's just a story.
So how much weight did you gain when you were pregnant? I gained
over 100. So I think I was, I was over 230, something like that. And I deadlift that now.
Yeah, you deadlift all
I
your
deadlift
kids.
all my
everyone in one.
Yeah, all of them. But anyway, so then I had the triplets, and trying to bounce back after that was crazy hard. So
How long did it take you to lose the weight after that?
I would say at about a year, I was pretty well back.
Okay.
I didn't look like I do today because I wasn't doing the right things and I wasn't dieting properly. I was dieting, but not in the right way to put on muscle. But I was doing a lot of classes. So I was doing spin classes and all sorts of like these circuit classes with running and Versa Climber and all sorts of things like that. And it was great. Like I learned a lot. And I think in those classes, I actually really learned how to push myself in terms of cardio and how to really, like realizing that you can almost die but not die. And then I started training with a personal trainer. A friend of mine asked me to jump in on her session, and I kind of liked it. And I got a personal trainer. He was actually competing. I knew nothing about competing, but I started to learn a little bit more about it. And then I started training with a pro. And then COVID hit, and I realized that, to be honest with you, I never found someone that I got really into it. Like when I was training and started following a diet, I had somebody give me a diet. I got really into it, and I really wanted to see changes. And I never found someone that was as interested in my progress as I was, that wanted to invest that, like, until I met you. And that's why for like the first year of coaching with you, sometimes you'd ask for check-ins like every 3 days. I wasn't used to that. And I would ask you, like, are you sure? Like, why do you want me to check in so often? Like, because I always felt like the person was working, and I didn't want them to do too much work. Like I felt bad. And with you, it's like so odd because like it's like you really take an interest in your athletes, and I'm not just saying this, it's true. And so that's why I always say you're my forever coach. Like I don't think there's anything out there that could be better, But I met you kind of, I think, a year into COVID, into the pandemic. Somebody said to contact you because I was looking for just like an all-in-one program, diet and workouts, and I wanted to see physique changes. Like I wanted to make improvements. I felt like I was training and lifting heavy and doing all these things, but didn't really know.
So when we started working together though, first of all, let me ask you this question. Like at what point in your life have you been happiest with your body? Like, would you say honest answer?
Honestly, 6 weeks out.
Yeah. So 6 weeks before your show. Yeah. Now, like when we started working together, so you came in here during COVID, I remember. Like you had a mask on, we were like secretive about it.
Like,
we were closed.
I was like really COVID scared, and you like looked at me like I was like a space alien. You're like,
I didn't know what you looked like.
This loser with a mask.
But you didn't want to compete. When we first started working together, you had no intention of competing.
I remember walking in here.
But you had an interest in it. I remember.
Yeah. This is actually a good story too.
Tell the story. I don't remember. I don't know what you're going to say, but tell the story.
This may need to get cut. I don't know, but let's just say it anyway. So I walked in, and you were sitting here with Arada. And if people don't know, Arada is one of the trainers here who's awesome. I've trained with her many, many times. And it was like all jarred because it was COVID and we weren't supposed to meet. And I said I just wanted like a plan and a diet. And I had like no interest in compete. I definitely knew what it was, but and you said to me, okay, well, let's see what you look like. And I'm like, what do you mean? Let's see what I look like. And you're like, did you bring a suit? And I was like, no. He's like, you did. And then you're like, okay, well, what are you wearing? And I'm like, I don't know, like underwear and a sports bra. Okay, let's see. Okay, and you weren't by yourself. Rada was here. It was all. But anyways, so then and then you put me in heels, and you said, put this hand like that and go like this and arch your back. Turn around, do it again. Okay, go change. And I came out and you said, okay, I'll coach you and you're going to compete and you're going to win. And that's.
What did you think, honestly, in that moment? Like, did you believe it? Did you think like this guy's a lunatic?
I thought you were scary. Like I was terrified. Like you were so
was I mean
serious. You weren't mean. You were just really serious and intense. And
I'm always serious.
No, but now that I know you,
yeah,
it's different. I got to know you, but I don't know. I guess what I thought when I walked out was like, this is a different league.
You did have an interest. I wouldn't have said it to you if you did. If somebody says to me, I have no interest in competing, I would say, no worries, don't ever talk to me about it again. Truthfully, because you should never, but I can see that you...
And you never pushed it. You really didn't push it. You always told me that. You said, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And you actually said you respect me more if I decide not to do it because I really don't want to.
Yeah, don't have to do it. I can't stand when people are 50% in and they kind of want to do it just to see how they look. Look, that's the worst thing you can say to me is I want to compete so I can see how my body looks lean. Just get lean.
Yeah, which I didn't care because I actually didn't know what my body would look like that lean. Like I never, I never connected it,
But what's impressive about you is you got really, not just lean, because lean is just part of the goal. And this is what people confuse, right? Like you got fuller, you got more muscular, you built your physique in the right areas. You also got lean. You were also eating a lot of food as you did it. So like you change your physique completely in that process.
Yeah, I look totally different now than like from the days that I was doing those classes. And it's like, it's night and day. And people always ask me, I have mom friends and people that are not in this bodybuilding world and really understand it, what I do. And it's such a crazy question because I can't really answer that in
like what did you do? Like
terms,
what's the best thing you could do? Like, man,
like,
I did 1,000 different diets.
It's almost insulting in a way because I'm like, you would never do what I do.
What's the secret?
There's no secret. The secret is like I don't binge. And to be honest, I used to. And I was thinking that on the way over here is how, and not even in my off season where my calories are so high now, but even on prep, like I have and it blows my mind how people will cheat on their diet on prep.
How much were you eating? Let's start with that.
On prep?
Yeah. Like how many carbs, fat, protein, all that?
Well, like when I was a week out, I was like 450 carb or something, which is crazy. A week out of show. My fats were I think like 60 or so, and protein's always been consistent.
And people will say this. They'll say, you only don't want to binge because you eat so much.
No.
Tell them why that's wrong.
That's wrong because you're still always hungry no matter what. Like if you're losing body fat,
500 carbs, 5,000 calories.
Hungry. Yeah,
you have to be in a deficit.
You're hungry. Yeah. There's no way you're going to lose fat if you're not hungry.
But you can't lose weight if you're not in a deficit. So you have to be expending more than you are consuming. So that is honestly only indicative of the person's metabolism or their work ethic.
Yeah. Well, I think metabolism, I give you full credit for. I have no control over my metabolism. You made the changes and I just followed along. But I think my work ethic is just, I have to do this. Like there's no other option. There's no, I can't check in with you and say, I ate X carb, X fat. I write my macros every time I check in, unless it's correct.
Yeah, like I don't understand how somebody could send me pictures knowing they're cheating on their diet all the time. Like
but it's
I just
crazy,
don't understand.
But it's just like, why are you doing it then?
Yeah, like why are you sending me pictures? Forget why you're doing it. Well, like how did you take a picture, snap a picture, send the picture, and then say like I don't even follow the plan?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Like why are we here?
But not only that, it's just also your style of coaching. Like here's the thing.
Doesn't work for that.
Yeah, it doesn't work for that because if you're coaching with somebody who's getting you to check in once every 2 weeks, which a lot of coaches do in the off season. I hear it. A lot of big coaches, you're off season once every 2 weeks or even once a week, those 7 days, like, sure. Okay. Maybe if you went up like 5 grams of carbs or maybe it's not going to affect you at this point. But for me, I'm checking in like almost every other day, and so if you're going to bring me up 5 grams of carbs and then I eat an extra banana, like there's 30, or
it needs
I don't
to make
eat
sense
it.
for
Like,
those increases.
And I actually remember when we started coaching together because I didn't have this mindset. I mean, I always had a very, I was always a perfectionist and all that, but I didn't realize how important it was. And I once sent a check-in to you and you said, did you eat all your food? And I said, yes. But some days, I leave like 3 grams of protein or 3 grams just because I can't find a food that will be. And I said, is that okay? And you responded, no, have 30 grams of egg whites. And so, when you say something like that to me, like to this day, I will always zero out my macros no matter what, because then when you do make that small change, I want it to mean something. I don't want it to just be, oh, I'm just pouring ketchup or like a sauce. That's my biggest pet peeve is when people just like take sauces with like 5 grams of carb per teaspoon and they're just pouring it on their, sorry, my thing's hitting the.
Yeah, the untracked, it doesn't matter, as if those calories don't matter.
Yeah. So especially in prep, which is.
But there is something I want to ask you because I was going to ask you this question a couple minutes ago. I was going to say, like, at what point were you sold on how I coached you? But I remembered a story anyways, so maybe this was the point. Because you did tell me that at some point, I think you underate, and I noticed a difference in your physique.
Yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So I had a bit of a stressful few days, and we had just started coaching together, and it was the day that I had to check in, and the 2 days prior, I had some, personal life things, and when I'm stressed, I lose my appetite. I just don't want
So
to
you're
eat.
the opposite of me.
Yeah.
I
When I'm
don't stop
excited, I
eating.
want to eat. But when I'm stressed, I don't eat. And so like today I can tell you I'm like super behind on my macros. We should go for pizza. Just kidding. That's
No,
like a
it was tempting me. The guy that overeats
No, you don't.
used to.
um,
Former addict.
so I underate and I lied. I checked in and I wrote my macros as they were and I sent my pictures and that was the only time I've ever lied to you in a check-in. And I sent it off and you said to me, "Did you eat all your food?" And I said yes. And you said, "It looks like you didn't." And then I said, "To be honest, I've been kind of stressed. So, I may have missed a couple of meals, but truthfully, I probably underate by like a solid amount of calories." And so I remember kind of stepping away and thinking, oh my God, because like for me to look at those pictures, I would never be able to tell. Maybe now after years of coaching with you, I could see the difference between flat and full and all that. But at that moment, I was like, holy shit, like how do you see it? It's like, it's magic, how did he know? And so I thought, okay, well, first of all, I can't lie anymore.
Yeah, that's off the table. Being
Yeah,
a liar.
this guy this guy will notice right away. And second of all, he's really good at what he does. And so,
But honestly, I asked that not because it's about me, but the reality is because
I mean, everything's about you.
I mean, everything is about me.
Hello.
What isn't about me? This trophy. This is actually not even her trophy. They gave
Yeah.
me one because I couldn't handle not getting one.
He tried to steal it.
I did. So the reason I say that is because when we're making these changes of 5 grams of carbs up and down, if you're inconsistent, the 5-gram increase or decrease does nothing. And then you're going to say, well, that's a huge waste, right? Like what a waste of time. What a waste of, like what's the point of making all these changes if the person isn't even consistent? Because you don't get the benefit of making those changes.
Right. 100%. You have to stay consistent and you have to, and I think that's also a question one of your athletes asked here a while ago that we were standing together, you were training him and he said, well, sometimes it's such a small change. I don't understand. And I said to him, well, it might be a small change for those 3 days, but over time, if you're checking in every 3 days and every 3 days you're getting 5 grams of this or 2, like sometimes you've changed things by 2 grams before, which is wild. Like in prep, you'll change things by like 3 grams or, one, I think it keeps you going. Like small changes like that keep you going. And 2, it's over time. So in that month, even though it was only like 3 grams here and there, it's like 50 grams in the month or whatever, up and down, you go up and down. So maybe it like nets to like 25, but that's significant. That's your banana.
And that's the biggest thing is people say to me, like, I want to get to the point where I can eat that much food. Honestly, that's the biggest thing. And like, as you said, it's like 5 grams here and there adds up to 50.
Yeah. But you have to be consistent because if I went and like binged, then
you undid everything.
I undid everything. And then you're going to like majorly drop me, add cardio, and then we're back. So you just go through
You're paying the price tomorrow for what you did today.
Cycle.
Right? Like you always have to pay the price. So if you go and like binge, then tomorrow we might need to add, and even if we don't add cardio, even if I don't even have to do anything to compensate,
right,
your body's compensating for that.
Right.
And in the long run, like you're taking away in a year how good your body can be.
Right.
So it's very rare, like you're an anomaly in the sense that your body got to that point, not because you're a genetic freak.
Right.
Like you're not a genetic freak in that sense. Obviously you have good structure and good genetics, to be able to get to that point. But like the reality is you're not a genetic freak for being able to eat that much. It's because how long have you been training? Many years.
Yeah,
right?
like actually like not even that many.
But I mean, you haven't been able to get to that point prior to working this way.
No.
So,
and that's why when I found you and I was like, okay, started to see these changes happening and it was wild.
So,
and I wasn't a believer before, and I think a lot of people aren't believers. They don't think this kind of thing could work, but I'm proof that it can work, and it does work.
So what's one piece of advice you would give to people that are like, obviously a lot of competitors watch, listen. Like what piece of advice would you give competitors that want to get their metabolism up, that want to get to the point where they can eat hundreds of grams of carbs instead of suffering and doing 2 hours of cardio? Because I think a lot of people believe that either they can do it or not, right? And like you might have probably been one of those people at some point in time that didn't believe, maybe if you read someone else do that you can do that.
That eat that much. That was, like an old coach, I actually said to them, this is where I want to get to. And I told you that was my initial, I've told you that many times, my initial goal was to get my food up, like a lot of people are, right? Is that they want their food to be high and to still be lean, somewhat lean. But somebody told me a long time ago, because I showed her on Instagram, I said, look at this, like this is what this person was eating. And look how big they looked, and now they're eating so much more, and they look leaner. How is that possible? And she said the pictures are photoshopped, or it's not true. They're lying, but it is true. It is possible.
A lot of people think you lied too. No, honestly, like people think you're not natural. For example,
I'm 100% natural. I would actually never take anything.
I still think
and not
lie.
against.
I still think you're not natural. Yeah. I'm joking.
You told me I was. Would you say I was on like a week out from show? We were doing lateral raises and I was all vascular, and you're like, holy shit, are you on Winstrol? I said, no. What is
You're
that?
dry and hard.
I would never take anything just because, I don't know. I wouldn't go down that road. Not for this.
It's a personal
right
decision.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I was able to do it without it. And sure enough, like at this point, being a pro might be hard for me going forward if I want to continue competing in this.
You're still competing. You're not quitting.
I know. I'm not quitting. I'm announcing my retirement.
Stop talking like you're quitting.
No, I'm not. But, at this level, to keep doing well in wellness is tough naturally. But it's not worth it for me to start taking anything. So I won't do that. But
so we were dieting for a show. You didn't really know you were dieting for a show.
Oh, yeah.
We were dieting for a show. How did you end up doing the show? What happened? Because we were just changing your physique. And you were looking better and better. And at some point, I remember looking at your pictures.
And I'm so blind, I actually
You were outside. These pictures were outdoors,
Yeah.
And you were like, you had this it's like shadow lighting, and you could see how good your glutes were.
Yeah.
Right? You could see how good your front pose was. You could see how good your back pose was. You could see that. And then I knew you can really do well in this. Like in a short period of time, meaning like, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it was. So what changed for you to want to compete? What was that pivotal point for you?
I think it was just like, I better just do it, And I think, to be honest,
your husband ordered you a suit.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how it all happened. Was he started noticing how good I was looking, and I kept going back and forth, and we were in prep, and then I called you. And I remember like a 2-hour conversation on the phone where I was justifying to you why I could never compete. It's not for me. And you respected it, and you said, fine, we're not prepping, but like secretly you kept prepping me. And my husband Jason ordered a suit that I designed and never ended up ordering, and he called and got it ordered and then told you, and then you responded to my check-in, by the way, you're 6 weeks out. And at that point, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And to be honest, my first show, a lot of it, I maybe this is wrong, but I kind of did it for you in a way, because I felt like I wanted to, like you believed in me so much, and I wanted to give you that, because I know you love the sport and you love having a good athlete on stage, and you felt I was a good athlete, and I wanted to give you that, like what we did together and built and worked together for a year. And but then I ended up going on stage and I loved it, and I just wanted to do it again and again.
So when you were, let's say the day before, or even the morning of competing, like, were you confident or no? Be honest.
No, I definitely was not confident. I didn't think that I could win. I always thought everybody looked like Olympian wellness girls.
Based on Instagram? Based on what? Like
based on Instagram. Like that's what I always compare myself to.
Yeah, you compare yourself to the number one person in the world.
Yeah, so like it's funny
doing your first show.
A lot of athletes will like send me other girls that are in their show, and I'll like look at Isabel or Francielle and be like, look at them and look at me. In my head, that's who I'm going to be standing up against.
That's why you were able to get that good that quick. Because you're not justifying and saying, I can beat this person in Scarborough, Pickering, Toronto. Right. Like you're saying, who's the best in the world? And that's who I'm comparing myself to.
Right, always. And I think that goes with anything that I've done. I've always kind of looked at who the best person is and tried to emulate them, you know. And so, I was really super nervous. I mean, you know, I'm not 25 years old. My body's been through crazy things, 5 kids, triplets, a hernia, surgery. I've, you know, spoken about this before. I have a scar for a belly button. That's like a huge insecurity for me. I must have asked you like 50 times and you're like, you're the only person that notices this. But, you know, I've got stretch marks and like, there's only so much your body can take. And I think that's also something else that, you know, that's why my work ethic is the way it is because I know that there are certain things that I can't change. You know, I can never get my 20-year-old skin back. That, you know, I can never have that same body that I had before I physically went through all those things, but nobody's going to outwork me. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to diet harder than me. And so I have to hold on to that and know that, you know, I truly feel like I've done everything I can. And
everything in your control, you have to take care of.
Everything in my control. And, you know, it just shows you that you could still be successful with maybe imperfect circumstances. Mm-hmm. Just because, you know, there are some things that you can't change and are imperfect, you know, you can still make it happen. So I wasn't confident until I stood in the lineup and you looked at me and you were like...
I gave the look that I give. I looked around.
You looked...
What did I say? Well, maybe
what did you say? You said out loud, very audibly, you think any of these girls are going to beat you? And I'm like, shh.
I'm like, they fucking have no chance, none of them.
And they're all standing. And
no, I looked at like everyone one by one.
And then you said something like, do you think, and I said, what about this girl? And I pointed to someone and he goes, you think Jen Dory looks at Laura Lee and says, oh, she's like, I'm worried about what she looks like before they go on stage. But like 2 weeks ago, I said something about Jen Dory and I go, well, Jen Dory does this. And then you looked at me and said, but you're not Jen Dory. So then right before I step on stage, anyways. And then I went on, I think when I, like after winning the first 2 things, I realized that I'm going to win the whole thing because I already beat everybody.
Yeah, that was already.
And then I think when I like looked back, I was like, okay, I'm significantly better than a lot. It sounds cocky, but it's
you're an athlete,
sport.
you're a competitor.
You
have to be a lunatic in this. In any sport. You have to be a lunatic. In any sport. No, like in anything. Like I don't even want to say sport. Like this is the wrong word, but like you have to be obsessed. You have to be crazy.
Right.
And like people look at obsession as a bad thing. Like, oh, you're obsessed, you're bad, you need balance. I disagree completely. I think that you need to be obsessed with things. That's what makes you feel alive. Like, don't you feel alive when you wake up every day and you're purposeful about achieving something for yourself? Like, that's what it is about yourself.
And another funny thing is my kid came home, going back to my dad and things that he taught me when I was younger. My kid came home, you know how you have to do those self-assessments at school and they ask you, you know, rate yourself from 1 out of 10, how you did on like listening and how you do on writing and all these things. And these were the triplets. So one of them gave himself, and this is my like overachiever. Like this one just, he's so competitive and he gave himself all 10s. And it reminded me of growing up when I brought one of those things home and I sat down with my dad and I said, okay, I got to rate myself. And my dad's like, don't even read the question. Just give yourself 10s across the board. Mm-hmm. Like,
first of all, if it's not a 10, it's a 0.
Is it what?
Like if it's not a 10, it's a 0.
Exactly. He's like, you need, and that was just like, you need to believe that you are the best. Mm-hmm. You are the best, and you're like blow everybody out of the water, you know? And I think that's the problem with comparing yourself to people that you're competing with on social media and think, you know, you think, oh, I only have to be better than this person. Like, no, don't look at that person. You need to be like
The best.
miles better. Like, you look so much better than that person. Like, it can't be, and that's what you always say, undeniable. Like, there can't be a question in anyone's mind that you're the clear winner. It can't be a little bit better. It's got to be.
So how do you become undeniable? Because to be honest with you, your first show you were, your second show where you almost turned pro a month after you started competing, you were close to it. Like, you were second to the girl that, you know, she turned pro. She'd been competing for years, so, you know, whatever. Like, and arguably, like, I still to this day believe you won that show. Okay, so I'm not biased, but that's just my objective point of view, and like 1,000 other people. But it is what it is, right? It doesn't matter. It's
Throwing that in there.
What?
Just throw that in there.
You came back a year later, not less than a year later, from your first show, and you were undeniable again. So obviously that's not an accident. That's not luck. Like, how do you become undeniable? When you go and open these dental practices and you guys are successful as a result of it, like, how do you do it? Because I think a lot of people struggle with figuring out what they want to do and then following through and actually achieving it.
Right. I think people think a lot.
But you're obsessed.
Yeah, I think that's the word. You have to become obsessed. And I wasn't even going to compete again. But I had this thing that I had to come back. I mean, my kids were at summer camp. I could have done anything. Friends were traveling. You know, we got invited to go to Italy and Greece and all these fun trips. And I decided to prep for a show because I just had to come back. And I think with you two, knowing what my weak points were, and you told me what they were, and I pushed so hard and learned, and I worked with Arada, and I learned how to bring those areas up, and I did. I became obsessed. I read everything that I possibly could, and I worked with you and followed everything meticulously, and I did everything I can.
But what does that mean? Like, doing everything? Because everyone thinks they do everything. I'm telling you, she does everything. I'm telling you guys, she does everything. A lot of people think they do everything. They don't. So, like, it might be hard for you to answer because you're subjective in your point of view. Like, if to you doing everything means, like, I'm sure you and I have talked about this before. Like, and when I first came into this industry, I was shocked when I would never ask somebody, did you cheat on your diet? Because it wasn't a thing that registered in my brain. Yeah,
it's crazy. And you tell me that too sometimes. You say, like, people will cheat, and it's like,
you don't understand it.
I don't understand it.
Like, so I coached people for 3 years until I figured out people cheat on their diet.
Yes.
I assume people don't cheat on their diet.
Yeah.
I thought, like, what do you mean you cheat? Like, what does that even mean? Like, why do you have
why
do you pay me?
Well, like, to be honest with you, I can be quite selfish in when you say, like, doing everything. And when I say selfish,
you don't say.
I don't mean that, you know, I'm selfish, like, everything that's important to me and everything that's in my circle and everything is how I'm selfish. So my family, you know, my husband, so, like, he probably sometimes is the one that gets the worst of it. But, you know, my family, my training, my diet, when I'm in prep, that's it. Everything that falls outside of that, I don't care for. I basically have no friends when I'm prepping. Not basically, I have no friends when I'm prepping. My only friend is you. Like,
best friends.
And that's okay, because, to be honest, I really don't care for a lot of people when I'm prepping because they don't get it, you know, and it's not their fault, but it's just, I also don't enjoy the company because I'm so focused. Like, I remember even after the show, I remember going out for dinner with friends, and all I wanted to do was talk about bodybuilding and talk about the show and talk about everything to do with that. And I didn't want to talk about the activities they signed their kids up to and what swimming school we're going to. Like, it just didn't, and that stuff used to really interest me, and it used to be. So
why do you think this interests you so much, bodybuilding and competing?
I think I just get into things, and I think bodybuilding, it's just seeing how my body has changed. Stepping on stage, getting that, you know, thrill and excitement, and winning and getting recognition. You know, everybody loves that, and you know,
get validated for achievement.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, and I think that's human nature. You know, everybody wants that, and this is just something that I enjoy. I truly enjoy training. Like, I really do, and this is something that I can do with that. That's it.
Something that people I work with that do well also I can correlate with one another, and like the common denominator, and you have this as well, is you have an ability to be unbothered by things. And I'm not saying that the problems don't exist, but like you have a way of just not letting things affect you, right? Like you can like, you understand, like, because you understand like when you're in a certain mindset, in a certain state, how much negative things or problems or challenges in your life, like when you let those things ruminate, they destroy you. Right, and you kind of just like, you'll shut your phone off or put it on like a airplane, whatever. What is that mode called where you don't let anyone call you?
Before shows, I have focus modes, and you know my focus mode before, I had a pro card focus mode, and it only had you on it and Jason and one of my kids who has a cell phone, and that's it. And maybe the school or the camp that they were at. But, you know, I couldn't take calls from anybody else. You know, I really had to be, I turn off social media. I really don't post. I mean, you know, now I'm more active because.
Yeah, you used to tell me, don't post me ever.
Yeah,
remember? You found out I posted you. I would post you undercover.
I told you, I didn't even have social media until I won my pro card. And then you said to me, like, can't even tag you.
I would see these dental office watching my stories all the time.
Stories. No, Pablo, chinchilla.
Or your animal,
my animal accounts
would watch my stories undercover.
Yeah, because people would send them to me. Other athletes, oh my God, you look so good, and I'm like, that fucker. But no, I told you that when I was like, don't post me without permission, and you asked me for permission the first time. You said, can I post this? And I said, if you think it's good. And you did. And then that was it. But I just, you know, I guess I don't want the attention early. And I think it distracts me. And I really am focused on the goal. And I really do want to do well. Like, I want to do well for myself. I also want to do well for you. You know, I don't want to embarrass you. And like, I feel like I'm a reflection of your work as well. And so I just have to stay focused. And yeah, I am. I think I'm definitely a more laid back personality. A lot of things don't. It's actually annoying to a lot of other parents when people ask me, you know, how do you do it? How do you handle 5 kids? How do you do it with your businesses? And then you train on top of it. And if you came to my house on a weekend and saw just how crazy it is, and
I've been there. It's a zoo.
It's a zoo.
Literally, you have an ecosystem.
Yeah, my bird and all my reptiles. That's what I'm really into right now, is setting up reptile enclosure. So I'm becoming obsessed with that and learning everything there is to it. I think that's also a calming activity for me. And it's really important, I think, to find something that you enjoy and that you can be really, you know, parasympathetic, like just chill.
Calming, brings you down.
You know, when I come to the gym, it's, you know, everything is go, go, go. And it's like, almost the tension is high, you know, it's that like fight or flight.
I have another client, he's a dentist. He says, he was talking about you today. He said every time she comes in here, it's like she's training for a competition.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not like me, I come in, I'm just want to, you know, work out. He's like, for her, it's like she's like every rep she's trying to get. Like she's pushing for a competition.
Yeah.
And that is another difference. Like that's why you need to have the contrast of it. Something to like calm you back down, because when you come and train, when you're lifting weights, like you're not just following 10 to 12 rep arbitrary numbers on a program.
Yeah.
Like that's not how your brain works. And that's why I say like programs and diets, they don't work. It's like your effort, your intensity, your intent. Like when she's doing it to the point where like she's engaged in the muscle. She's
like I'm so focused. Like yesterday I was here training legs, and you know, when I listened to my music playlist, and when my kids were little, I downloaded all these nursery rhyme songs, you know, and they're still on my playlist. So I'm training legs, and in the middle of, at some point, I don't know, I was doing leg press, and I don't know at what point it started playing like row, row, row your boat and all these nursery rhymes. And I didn't realize until like 3 sets in, and I'm like, what am I listening to? You know, so I'm so focused that
I don't even notice.
I tune everything out. A lot of times I do cardio in complete silence. Sometimes I listen to white noise just for something, because, you know, I don't want to get distracted by people talking, or if somebody sees me without headphones, sometimes they start talking to me.
Most of the time I listen to things.
Sometimes it's my coach.
No, I don't. I can't even.
Hey, Dove. Dove.
Sometimes you end up talking to me for half an hour. It's like, hey, do your set. Come on.
Oh, stop. It's you. I'm doing leg
Stop blaming
extension. Okay. After I check in and he's like, your quads don't look as full today. Then I'm doing leg extension. He sits down in front of me. So.
Don't blame me. Don't blame me. Don't blame me.
It's okay.
Okay, I want to know if someone wants to turn pro. We're going to change the subject since you're insulted. If someone wants to turn pro, we have many people that want to turn pro. They want to get a pro card. First of all, I always ask people, why do you even want to turn pro? Like, what does that even mean? Because like, if you're doing it just because you want to say you're a pro, like you're probably not going to turn pro. Like you actually have to care about every step of the way. But like, what piece of advice would you give to somebody that wants to turn pro in bodybuilding, bikini, and wellness? Because you compete in wellness.
Yeah.
What's like one piece of advice you think that's probably the most important thing
to turn pro?
Yeah, to get to that point.
Yeah.
And not just turn pro. If you want to become successful in business, if you want to open a business and be successful, if you want to have a successful family,
right.
Because obviously
you can have all those things. You have to picture yourself doing those things, and you have to conduct yourself to be a pro, you've got to train like a pro, or how you think a pro trains. You've got to eat and diet, and you have to eat, sleep, everything has to be perfect and how a pro would do it. I mean, I dedicate so much of my life to it. It's my lifestyle now, so I don't know any different, but I
what do you think you sacrificed to do that?
I sacrificed a lot. I was telling a friend the other day on the phone, she actually said to me, she's not a bodybuilder, and she said, you're the most disciplined person I know. And she said, I wish, and I always get that, I wish I had half your discipline. And I said, well, you do, you just, aren't willing to, I guess, make the sacrifices. And listen, sometimes when I was in prep, it was hard. I can't say that you don't have to sacrifice family time and miss out on things. You absolutely do. There were times, we have a hot tub in the backyard, and I remember, and my step mill and my cardio equipment is kind of facing that window. And I remember times in prep where I had cardio to do, and it was late and I was exhausted, and I would have loved to go outside with my husband and kids and watch a movie in the hot tub and hang out with them, but I was watching them from inside while I was doing steps, and it's hard. And I had moments where I thought, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And sometimes I couldn't answer that. I didn't know, but all I knew is that, I had decided to do this, and I had no choice but to be successful. I've given myself no choice. And that's why I tell you, when people ask me, how do you do it? How do you have 5 kids? I have no choice. And with the kids and the family and how did you have 5 kids? Well, first of all, I didn't plan to be pregnant with triplets. I didn't plan. I'm so happy and I'm so grateful for them. But I also have no choice but to be the best mother that I can, to raise them the best that I can, and to have them turn out to be great adults. And I carry that no choice mentality to everything in my life. When I open a practice, I have no choice but to make that practice successful. There's no other option. Mm-hmm. I can't take out, $1 million loan or whatever it is to open a practice and have that fail. I have a family. It's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. There's no option. When I decided to compete, when I decided to go for my pro card, there was no other option. I was becoming pro. There's those Instagram stickers that go around. People tag you to post your picture from whenever, and I got tagged in, post your 1 day out picture. And I always take my check-in pictures and I label them 5 weeks out, 4 weeks out, 3 days out, 2 days out. And I couldn't find 1 day out. And I was searching 1 day out, 1 day. I searched in the emails, couldn't find it. And the reason I couldn't find it was because I called that check-in last amateur check-in, because I decided I'm turning pro. Mm-hmm. There was no other option. And so that's how I do things. And I think that mentality is the key to success, is to know that, when you walk in, you have to have many different avatars in your life. When I walk into my house, I'm mom. That's mm-hmm. my avatar. I'm not bringing anything home with me. I'm not bringing work home with me. I'm not bringing a shitty workout or anything. That's it. I'm present for my kids. I'm there. I'm mom. When I walk into this gym, I'm there to kill my. I'm here to kill my workout. I'm an athlete. You know, I'm not talking about other things or wasting time. I'm focused.
I think people are like merging different areas of their life into other areas of their life.
You know,
it's
and
like
you have
diluted.
to. You have to. I'm going to say this word wrong. Compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize.
Yeah, you've read more books than me.
Fragment.
But you also listen to books on Audible. That's why you can pronounce it.
You're attributing my understanding of that word to the fact that I listen to audiobooks.
Because I read it.
Look at the books behind you.
You're smarter. Okay.
No, I'm not. You're the doctor.
I'm an immigrant.
Me too.
No, you were born to an immigrant family.
Same thing. I was in remedial reading.
I was in ESL.
We're going to keep going down this road. All right, you win.
Yeah. But so yeah, I call it like my avatars, you know, so I have different avatars and at work, I'm not walking into work talking about bodybuilding, you know, I'm walking into work, we're talking about work. And I think that's the key to having different areas of life and be successful. You know, when I'm with my husband, with my husband, I could talk about everything, but, you know, I also have to be a wife.
You're right.
You know?
It is something I've noticed about you. You don't bring things into different areas of your life. And that's something I'm bad at. Like I'm here and I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking like, I need to get better at that. Getting my life more organized in that sense where I'm only focused on that.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. It's difficult, but, you know, you have to always remind yourself, like, who am I at this moment? Who do I want to be at this moment? You know, when I'm here, I look up at the wall. There's my pro card. There's my picture. I have to be that person. And I have to be the person that, you know, won that day and the person who's going to continue to improve and train and compete and represent him or fitness and represent you in a good way and continue to grow. I don't want to be the person that gave up. Like, I don't know how to do that.
But you are the real deal. Like it's not an act. You don't just act that way, right? And what a good example of that is like, there's many people, and I'm not saying because someone takes steroids they're not the real deal, right? But like you're true to to things you want to do. Like I'm not going to do it, and I'm going to achieve it this way, and you do it. You know, you don't compromise on your values and your beliefs and your mindset. You maintain true to that. You know, you do that with everything. Like. Some people, they're happy to have a good body even if they're really unhealthy in the inside, where you won't compromise for that because you are the real deal. And you do care tremendously about maintaining true to those values. And that's what makes you successful from what I can see in many different things that you do, because you're not constantly bending yourself into a pretzel to accommodate yourself, you know, based on today. It's like, this is who I am and I'm going to stay true to that. And honestly, the people that can stay true to themselves all the time are the ones that win in the end.
Right. Yeah, there are things that I want to change. You know, like one of the things that you always work on with me as well as in terms of mindset is, you know, not being so giving. Sometimes I'm too giving of my time and I don't, as selfish as I said I am, I'm quite selfless in a lot of ways, but
that's not your values.
But it is me, you know, it's truly me. And it's almost selfish in a way because I feel good being like that, you know? But yeah, I am always myself and this is who I am. And, exactly. Like I won't, you know, you'll see even on my social media, like I don't post the same things that a lot of people post. And I used to care a lot.
You never know what you're going to find when you open your Instagram.
I think it's true. When I post a story, like, I feel like people click on it and they're thinking like, what's this crazy girl doing now? Like, what animal did she get? But I used to care a lot. I think that used to be a handicap for me, was trying to be someone that I'm not and trying to conform and fit into this mold. But I think it's very liberating to know that you don't have to be like that. And you know, people will love you for who you are. And I think people love you more when you're yourself. And you're yourself. And I think that's why people, you know, are drawn. And
half the population.
Yeah.
And the other half, not so much.
I know. I think those people are even more drawn to you.
Yeah.
You know,
they just can't admit it.
Oh, that's why. Yeah. They just, you know. So.
I appreciate you coming today.
Thank you.
I want to have you on regularly because you know your mindset is very indicative of, you know, what I preach, and as I said, you're the real deal. So when I'm saying things to people, you embody. And honestly, I always use you as an example to people. I say like, look at her. Like, there's no excuse, and I don't mean that in like, obviously in any sort of condescending way. It's just like, you have done all the things that those people have done and more. And you don't make, and it's not even like you do it and you make excuses. You do all these things without excuse. You do all these things with enthusiasm. You do all these things with a good attitude, and that's what's obviously very inspiring.
I don't tell
you.
myself a story,
Yeah, you're not a victim. You're never a victim.
I never.
That is the thing that kills people, is they are a victim to.
Yeah, a lot of people tell themselves a story why they can't, and I learned a long time ago that you can't tell yourself stories. You have to.
Yeah. Well, if you tell yourself stories about why you will, why you can.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you one more question. If your kids wanted me to coach them one day, would you ever let your kids coach
Absolutely.
with them? No, you wouldn't.
I would.
You think I'm gonna give them an eating disorder?
I actually think you fixed my eating disorder. I was.
We're all disorderly.
I was so. Well, people will say what we do is tracking food is disorderly, but I was.
You think having a fridge is orderly?
That what?
You think having a fridge and eating like from
a
fridge is
it's
orderly?
It's not normal. Anything, right?
Yeah.
But we should farm and pick crops.
No, get rid of the fridge. Go hunt. Gather.
It's true.
Get your wife to cook.
Or eat crickets like my bearded dragon.
Yeah.
But no, I would, if my kids wanted to go into bodybuilding, this is 100% truth. I swear to God. Well, first of all, if they wanted to go into bodybuilding, I'd be like, "Are you stupid? Like, go get a real job."
I'm
just kidding. But no.
That's the dub I wanted.
What are you doing? No, but if they ever wanted to coach, I don't think there's anybody better than you. And I do think, despite what anybody says, your approach is very health centered, and you coach a lot of people naturally. Like you told me, you only want to coach natural.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Yeah. And I think that also shows your expertise, because it's so much harder to get results and be able to do it.
It's all relative to the individual.
Yeah, but for you too, it takes a lot of, like, you deal with a lot of shit. And we didn't even talk about the fights we have in prep.
Next time we'll talk about it.
Every prep, we break up.
Yeah, we do.
For like 30 seconds. Yeah. And then I walk in here.
You come in here.
And then I come in here and he's got his head like hanging down. He's like.
You walk in like you're like a
hello.
Like a kid that disappointed the dad. Look, are you mad at me?
And you're like, you really think I don't want to coach you anymore? And I'm like, yes. And then it's like over.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's so like prep related. I prep just makes you a little bit sensitive. Maybe a lot sensitive.
Yeah.
But now you could say anything to me. Like I was gonna say about how I've been checking in a little late lately, and I said to you in a check-in, I said, "Can I talk about this in the podcast? I think it'll be funny." And Amer answered,
"It's not funny."
Amer answered, "No, it's not funny." So like, if I was in prep, I would have been like, "Oh, it's like really
He's mean
insulting.
to me.
He's mean to me." But now I'm like, "Fuck you." Can you swear on this? Is this Oprah?
Yeah.
No. I feel like I'm on Oprah's couch.
Thank you, Dove. Where can people find you on Instagram?
Oh, I don't know. What's my Instagram name? Dr.
We'll put it below.
_IFBB. Follow me, because I don't have a lot of... My bird is about to have more followers than me. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, we got to get her followers up.
I hope to start making more content. I'm building like a crazy gym at my house. This was a long time in the making. Amer picked all the equipment, so I'm super excited about that.
So you're going to film content there?
I will film some workouts and some full day of eating and things like that. And I definitely want to show more. My next prep, I want to be a lot more open with you guys. I find the support on social media amazing, and
it's because you're supportive to people.
So
you support other people very well.
Right. Like I mean, I want to be more open. Before I didn't really know the community, but I've met some of the greatest people through bodybuilding, and I definitely want to share more as we go into the next competition.
We'll put all your links below. We'll put Instagram, your email so they can harass you. I'll put your phone number and all that too, so they can prank call her.
I'll forward it. I'll forward it to your line.
Perfect. Thank you, Dove.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you, guys. Make sure you subscribe to our Spotify, iTunes, and to our YouTube. Follow us for more.